The funeral service of the MMC Andile Mngwevu is currently underway in Springs. Mngwevu's car was swept away in the recent floods in Mozambique. Mbalenhle Mthethwa joins us live now for an update. Mbalenhle, good afternoon. Just take us through the proceedings and some of what we heard in the tributes that were being paid for the late MMC.
Well, certainly it's been a very long ceremony that started really early this morning and was divided into two ceremonies, even though it was just one send-off. And the one ceremony was dedicated to the family, and the second ceremony was dedicated to the political party that Andile Mngwevu served under, and that was responsible for having placed him and appointed him as the MMC for roads and transport. Now, his immediate manager and boss, the mayor, has described him as someone who was quite strategic and who was resolute in terms of achieving some of the ambitions that they had set out in achieving, and was always reminding him. And you would know that in council they sit right next to each other, and he also expressed that he wonders who will be sitting next to him and who will then remind him every now and again of all the things that they had agreed on when meeting outside of council, and all the items that needed to then be championed when speaking or sitting at whether it's in council or during meetings. Now, the second ceremony, what really stood out is what the Gauteng Premier Panyaza Lesufi said in his praises to the younger brother of Andile Mngwevu, who was responsible for going to Chokwe in Mozambique. He personally went there and hired a chopper to go and retrieve his brother's remains. He went there despite being told that it was dangerous to go there, but he went there and he did not listen. And when he arrived there, the Premier says he received a call from Linda Mngwevu, who informed him that he had found the place and that he has indeed seen the waters. However, he was still determined that he was going to ensure that he doesn't leave that country without his brother. Once he had located the vehicle that they were traveling in with the other passengers, he then called the Premier yet again and asked the Premier to assist with sending divers to the country and assist in retrieving the bodies and the remains of those who were trapped in that particular vehicle. And he has been hailed, Linda Mngwevu has been hailed as a hero for having gone to such great lengths to ensure that not only his family got closure, but all the other passengers' families also got closure. Now, as we speak right now, I'm just going to ask my camera colleague to show you what's happening just behind us on the side. No, please don't. On the side there. And I have a guest who just tried to run away from us to make a grand escape. I'm going to ask some of his other colleagues to come through. I've got three of his colleagues here who are going to speak to us, please. So one of the colleagues that we're going to speak to here is the EFF's provincial chairperson, Nkululeko Dunga. Nkululeko Dunga, you worked as the MMC for finance. I'm not sure you were working with Andile at the time, if he formed part of the composition of that. What do you make of the sentiments and comments that, you know, before taking over office, that there was a time when nothing worked in the city of Ekurhuleni?
No, thank you. We did work with Andile Mngwevu, and we still continue to work with him, you know. As a member of the executive and also the leader of government business, he had the task, or the responsibility rather, to merge between the executive and council, particularly in programming and many other spaces, and that's where we had majority of the interaction. It goes without saying that the formation of the co-governance model in the city of Ekurhuleni was as a result of having identified particularly the loopholes of the previous administration, where administration of service delivery would be directed in the main in white and affluent areas. And we needed really to augment and change that perspective. And I would guess that's where the barren years would emanate from our understanding of what it entails to be barren. So we have worked with him. He was a man of great opinions. He was very firm, very clear, direct, and he never took things personal, you know. Would speak on matters, politically disagree, and have a conversation later about it, you know, to say, perhaps if you raised this particular issue in this particular manner, you would have won the argument. So this is the kind of guy that he was. We had the ability to really just laugh off some of the tension, even in council as well as the executive, because it can be very tense. But we appreciate the time that we have spent with him, and we know him even way beyond, you know, the economic freedom fighters and forming part of it, where in the youth league structures where we genuinely had a mutual political participation.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us. We're now joined by the ANC's provincial representative, a member of the PTT in Gauteng. You are here to represent the PTT. We know the co-convener has to go somewhere else. The Secretary General also had to go somewhere else. But what was said by the ANC Secretary General was that Andile Mngwevu would have been very strategic in ensuring that they are able to bring up the numbers, especially in the region, and his call for officials or councillors that are fit to task. What do you make of that call?
As you can remember, in January the 8th, let me start by saying that once more we want to pass our condolences to the family of Comrade Andile, the wife and the children in particular, and that we came here in our numbers as members of the African National Congress to bury one of us in dignity. But as you remember, January 8th statement, at the core of it, we agreed that this is the year to fix local government and to ensure that the economy of this country do recover, so that we address the triple challenges that we are faced up with. So what the AG was really emphasizing on is that as part of fixing that local government, we've got to ensure that we do what Comrade Andile was known to be, a people's person, to work within the communities, and particularly to encourage our communities to vote and vote for the African National Congress as part of us fixing local government, because democracy is a cornerstone of any state institution, and therefore to build a resilient and strong municipality of Ekurhuleni, we need the participation of our people.
And with regards to the kind of person that he's been described as, someone who was firm, who was able to take on even the taxi industry when there was need to negotiate and reach somewhat of a settlement in his work, what do you think Ekurhuleni will need going forward in order to regain that lost ground? And could Andile have played a crucial role in doing that?
At least we have an experience here. We have a leader that we deployed before. We will not be looking anything less than that. We're going to be looking for something more than that. And when we do redeploy any other person to take the work of Comrade Andile forward, because unfortunately it will have to happen, we want to ensure that we will put in a person that would, at the core of it, ensure that the service delivery in a manner that Comrade Andile was doing it, but also in line with our 6th task as per January 8, in particular as we fix local government.
Thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us. You served hand in hand with Andile Mngwevu in the Youth League. Even the Secretary General mentioning you by name and surname, Lisiba Mpia. How do you feel today? You've lost someone you've served with as the Youth League and also going into government together.
Sure. Look, if at all there's anyone who's larger than life, it definitely is Andile Mngwevu. A person who appeared weak when he was strong, a person who accommodated everyone. Andile was an initiator. And indeed, when we elected him as a secretary, it was a deliberate move because there were specific programs of the Youth League that we're pursuing One such program is the Ekurhuleni University. A conference resolution would have been taken in 2009, and we had to resuscitate that. And we found that the leadership of the day was extremely rigid, and we had to, leave the character of the Youth League, which was militant and radical. We can safely say, yes, when we led with Andile, we definitely re-radicalized the Youth League in Ekurhuleni. We remilitarized it. There was order, there was discipline at the time. And there was one commander, and Andile was such a commander. Look, we are extremely hurt because of his passing, but he has left a legacy. You would have heard from many speeches that the community of Tema has lost a lot because he supported them in community development programs, including soccer and not limited to that. But Andile was an astute business person. He was the reason some people would have been employed in the... So we are very hurt and will forever miss Andile Mngwevu.
Thank you so much for your time. There you have it, comrades, colleagues, as well as the ANC leadership, just here to say their last and final goodbyes. The taxis that are on their way to the graveside are almost done leaving the vicinity of the stadium. But as you can see, he lived a full life, and as you've heard, he will be missed by his friends, his colleagues, his comrades, and even the family, the community of KwaThema. The community of KwaThema looked forward to his annual parties, and we did understand that it was postponed to happen sometime later, I think last weekend or this weekend, and it's unclear as to whether it will continue, but that was an indication of the contribution that he had made to the community and his popularity and his ability to bring people together in KwaThema. KwaThema came out in their numbers to say their goodbyes, but the real reflection of how KwaThema feels was in the candlelight vigils that was packed, that really surrounded the whole business precinct, where one of the businesses where he usually used to host the parties is located. Many people coming through. You would have seen the videos of the ANC Youth League and others coming out to celebrate and remember the life and times of the MMC for Roads and Transport, Andile Mngwevu. His daughter, devastated and distraught, asking, "Daddy, when are you coming home? I missed you already." Unfortunately, Daddy's not coming home. It's back to you in studio.
All right, Mbalenhle Mthethwa, they're reporting live from Springs in the east of Gauteng from the funeral of the late MMC in Ekurhuleni, MMC Andile Mngwevu. The funeral was taking place today.